Nico Raskin, talking about his time with Russell Martin. Look, and I know we talked about Russell Martin recently when he was in Five Live, and we talked about him a lot this season, obviously. But just kind of hammers home again, Scott, the damage that he almost did. You said last night, Keith, that for you, Raskin, on the type of form he was on Sunday, is the best player in Scotland. I mean, can you imagine if Russell Martin had sold him?
Certainly the best midfield player.
Aye.
But this doesn't surprise me. And I'm sure that we talked about it on the show at the time.
Aye, we did, aye.
The way that Nico Raskin was being mistreated and mismanaged by Russell Martin was astonishing. And I said it from game one, the big, when the wrappers come off Russell Martin's Rangers side. I think, what was it, Scotty? Anderlecht at Ibrox or something like that, right back at the start of the season. And I was very curious because obviously this was going to be a brand new kind of contemporary style of play. And I'm sitting watching it, and for the life of me, I can't work out what he's doing. Nico Raskin is dropping back, basically playing as a left back, stroke outside left, and Max Aarons is moving in as the inverted, so a right back playing as a left back, then moving into the centre of the field, pushing Raskin out to the sidelines, and he was given the responsibility of doing all the good work that Raskin does in his best areas of the pitch. And I thought from that first glance, at Russell Martin's Rangers, I knew that he was going to have a major problem with Nico Raskin, because there was no way that Raskin would be able to keep his mouth shut about that, and rightly so. What a waste it was, and it must have been so frustrating for him to look at Max Aarons. Max Aarons has, he's whatever he is, he's certainly not a centre midfield player. He's certainly not a distributor, a passer of the ball. And Raskin, I just felt from day one there was going to be a problem. And then it wasn't, I think it was after that Russell Martin went to Motherwell and started throwing things about players need to watch their egos. And I said on the show at that time, he's talking about Nico Raskin. I said that to you, Dan, on this show.
Yep.
It was obvious to me that there was a real clash of personalities right from the start. And I don't think that Russell Martin could handle the character that Nico Raskin is. He's a fiery wee guy. And I think he's probably got a voice. And I don't think that Russell Martin wanted any voices other than his own inside that dressing room. And that's why it seemed very obvious from the outside that there was going to be a major issue between the two. And it got further, it deteriorated. And I'm entirely positive that if Russell Martin could have got his way on that one, and Nico Raskin didn't stand up for himself and fight to stay at Rangers, which he sort of did, although it was up in the air right till the end of that the transfer window. But if Russell Martin had got his way, I think Nico Raskin would have been dispatched at the speed of light. I think he couldn't wait to get shot of him. And that tells you something about Russell Martin as a manager, and more importantly, as a man manager.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jack. I mean, I'm sure Barry Ferguson is quoted since he left the interim manager's gig at Rangers as saying Nico Raskin was quite challenging as a player, to deal with. But so as a manager, you can go two ways with that. Barry's attitude was he loved that. He thrived on that. He took on that challenge. And if you speak to Barry,
I think it frustrated him a little bit now and again.
Right, but he was willing to come and go with him. I think he'll tell you that Raskin did wee pops back at him, but Barry obviously, as you'd expect, gave as good as he got and made sure obviously Raskin knew who was in charge.
I think he gave a wee bit better,
So I think that's the way. That has to be the way you deal with a player like Raskin to get the best out of him. And I think you could argue in that wee spell at the end of last season, Barry Ferguson probably did get the best out of him. You think of the goal at Celtic Park and giving him that licence, a bit like we've seen on Sunday with Danny Rowe in the second half, taking the shackles off him and allowing him to go and influence and affect the game. I think that's when you get the best out of him. Russell Martin obviously, he clearly thought it was the right thing to do at the time. I don't think he would. I'd be amazed if he stuck to that now with hindsight. But
yes, he would, Scott. Yes, he would. Yeah. Because the only thing that Russell Martin has said is that I wish I had stuck more to my original plan. And his original plan involved people doing exactly as they were told, playing the game
rid of
his
Raskin.
way.
Yeah.
Playing the game his way. And even though it was to the detriment of the team and to the detriment of Nico Raskin that Russell Martin wanted him to play in wide areas of the pitch and out of the areas where he excels. It was madness, and it was I don't know. There's almost a touch of the narcissistic about it. That you'll do it my way, and this is the way, and any insubordination will result in you getting papped out.
At Motherwell, in that opening
Madness.
day, you're talking about positioning. I remember being at Firth Park in the opening day of the season, and he was playing as a number 8, but very high up in the left hand side. I remember sitting with Andy in the press box thinking Raskin was receiving the ball in the final third with his back to goal, almost like a forward, and he kept losing it. I mean, he lost it like 2 or 3 times. I remember in the first half. And I think that's never Nico Raskin's game. Receiving the ball with his back to goal and trying to beat people, and that was never going to be his game. I mean, listen, you can argue whether he's a number 6 kind of sitting midfielder in terms of the role he does for Belgium, or is he actually at his best for Rangers? And I think he probably is, as I touched on on Sunday, where he bombs on, goes and affects the game. But one thing you can't argue, he's never a high, wide attacking player that's going to, as I say, is going to receive the ball with his back to goal. So it was very strange. And as you say, Daniel, I mean, we can almost laugh about it now in terms of Russell Martin, when it went wrong, and how stupid was that trying to bomb him out and try to sell him and stuff. But at that time, Raskin's value was decreasing by the minute because of what was happening. Yep. And they could have let him go for no a lot of money in that window.
And he was painted as a bad character, Scott, as well. Exactly. He was painted as a bad apple. Yep. So not only are you saying he's not good enough to get into my team that can't win games of football, he's not good enough to get into that team. So you've devalued him in the first place. But on top of that, I don't want him in the dressing room because he's a bad influence. I mean, what a way to wipe the value out of the guy.
That's what I was going to say. So if you're in charge of the club now, you must be thinking, God, can you imagine we had to let him go at that point for the money that was maybe on offer, compared to now, where he's obviously one of the main men again. They're trying to go for a title. He's heading to the World Cup with Belgium. He's still got, I think it's another 2 years left in his contract. If he keeps going and keeps this form up, obviously, if bids are going to come in, Rangers could get a right decent offer for him. So I think you're right, Daniel. It's kind of scary to think what might have happened if Russell Martin had got his way and they had sold him in that window with his value decreasing all the time.
Aye. It's funny, Russell Martin feels like a lifetime ago. It doesn't feel like this season. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Even thinking back to Brendan Rodgers and the Honda Civic, that all feels as if it was about 4 seasons ago now, doesn't it?
Bizarre, I know.
Even been at Falkirk on Sunday, obviously we were there the last time Rangers went there, and it was like Russell Martin getting out the side exit. The Rangers team bus couldn't get out of the car park because of fans protesting. Scrambled a one each against Falkirk. At that point, you were wondering, the Rangers going to get into the top 6 at this rate. Compare that to Sunday. 6 goals, fans delirious. Danny Rowe, the hero, and 5 games to go. They've actually got a decent chance to win the title. It's been absolutely bonkers. Aye.